How was your
It was good. Good.
That's nice.
So if anybody happens to be, oh, I'd probably use the microphone for that announcement. They can't hear me. I was talking to the live stream, but they can't hear me without the microphone. If there is anyone who's watching at home, we could use a few more people here at the building, so feel free to join us. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Oh, that's
The camera.
right. Yeah, every place they have a camera now, so you can see everything. So it's good.
Yeah, well, it helps people who are stuck at home to be able to watch.
Well, a few years in a row lately, that's what we did. Yeah.
How was the production that your granddaughter was doing?
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I'm very proud of her.
Good.
She's working hard.
Good.
Yeah, but she's getting good. Oh, you saw it probably on the face on the.
I saw it one, yeah.
Yeah, she's it's Dracula, so it was like different. A show before, I thought she was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
The show before, but she had also bigger things. Here they had also like different things. It's like, but to go, go to taking classes, walking,
It's
and
a lot.
it's a lot. And Rosh Hashanah, she came with us to Shul.
Very nice.
So, it was a lot. Because she means different things.
Yes.
But, it's okay.
That's right, rounding people up. Hey, friend. We're gonna get started. No, but we're hoping for it.
Yeah, we never know. Not
We're gonna
tomorrow.
start. We'll see what happens.
Like I always said, my brother and my sister bring it to so somebody else in Minyan. And tomorrow I'm going to go over there. So I'm gonna,
Who is the yard site for?
my father. But that's still on the end. Because it's
Yes, it was this. Yeah, it was this
Yeah.
morning.
and
Oh,
then-
it's
no,
tomorrow. It's for tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Got it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
for
mine-
tomorrow. So I figure I like to always come first night here.
Yeah, but we're happy to have you.
Yeah, so. How you doing? How you doing? I'm going to give you a hug.
Okay. So Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach, everybody. We are on page 226. 226. We begin with Mincha with Ashrei. May be seated. Ashrei Yoshe Beitachad Yalucha Salad. Tehillat Adonai Yidabra Pi V'Rech Kol Basar Shem God Shol Olam Va'ed V'Nach Nevarech Ya Me'atav Et Olam Hallelujah Uval Et Zion Goel Sheveshei Kavod Adonai Kadosh 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 Elazar Skodod Baruch Adonai Mim Komo Naim Loch Le'Olam Va'ed Tilach Tzedek Le'Olam Dechamad V'yivtechu v'chayrei shemecha k'ler shachar Adonai no'etzaman tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir. So in the absence of a minyan, we'll begin with the silent Amidah, page 242, A or B, Amidah for the festival, 242, A or B. Remembering to include only the passages for Sukkot, Do the silent Amidah, again, page 242, A or B. And then we will see if we have our minyan for doing a chazara or not. I don't know, what did I do? Chag HaSukkot If you are still completing your personal Amidah, please continue. Otherwise, we will turn back to page 244. Maybe seated. We'll do highlights of the Mincha Amidah. We can't do the full repetition without the Minyan, but we can do some of it. A little bit of that feel for the festival tune. Again, page 244. אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, שמך הגדול והקדוש, Aleinu karata. The bottom of the, well, middle of the page, I should say, the bottom paragraph. Ya'aleh ve'yavo ve'yagia ve'yerah ve'yeratzeh ve'yishama ve'yipaked Ve'zacher zichronenu fiktonenu ve'zichron avotenu ve'zichron Mashiach ben David avdacha ve'zichron Yerushalayim ir kodshecha ve'zichron kol amcha Beit Israel lefanecha lifleta letova. On page 245, at the very bottom, Hatov kilo chaluracha mecha vehamirachem Kilo tamu chasadecha hatov Kilo chaluracha mecha vehamirachem Kilo tamu chasadecha me'olam me'olam kivinu lach me'olam me'olam kivinu lach. Page 246, second paragraph. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amacha Yisrael bechol eit ubechol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. We'll rise for Aleinu, page 248. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol late gedula leotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoye haratzot velo samanu kemishbechot adama shelo samachel kenu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam vanachnu korim Mishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu she'unot hashamayim ve'yosed haaretz umoshav yekaro b'shamayim imal ushchinatu zo begavhei meromim Hu Eloheinu Eino Demokeinu. Ki amalchut shalchim et v'chachavok hakativ b'toratecha Adonai loch le'olam v'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Bayom ha'u hi Adonai echad. U'shemo, U'shemo, U'shemo echad. U'shemo echad. Fondness and affection recall those members of our community, of our congregational family whose yard sites come to a close at sundown this evening, the 15th of the month of Tishrei. We remember Al Moss, Dora Katz, Edward Sussman, Essie Evans, Fanny Newman, Florence Aridas, Gilbert Ginsberg, Leon Rothenberg, Leslie Ticker, Lillian Presser, Norman Schaefer, Ricky Wade Hutton, Sora Spector, and Vivian Weil. He is Zichron Baruch. May their memories be for a blessing. May they rest in peace. Amen. Okay, my friends. So, the absence of a minyan. We don't say Kaddish, but we'll see if we get people later. We can always say it then. We'll take a little bit of time to chat. Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's been so long since I've seen you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How's the family? How's everybody? Yes, children,
They
grandchildren?
come all the time.
Yes,
They come all these fellowships.
that is good, yeah.
Thanks, Christy. How about you? Everybody's
Pardon?
good. How about you?
They're good. Yeah, they're really good.
They live in town?
No, Joanna's in Maryland and Rach is in Memphis. I have a grandson in college.
That's wonderful.
Oh, God, I know. I know I had children when I was 3.
You work in a little bit of learning.
Very young.
You want your own or you want to share?
Oh, we can share.
He's a member of the National Choir.
We can share.
Chris, do you want your own or you want to share?
Whatever.
Share everything else.
Hey, what's wrong with you? It's like you're snapping up on it or something.
You got excited.
What's wrong with you? Come here, this is my buddy Frank. There's a conversation starter right there. Should I get him out of here or what?
First of all, remember this if you did this last time.
Here, and jump to page 4 paper.
That's okay.
Okay, my friends. So what I just handed out, in case you were watching online, I apologize that I didn't have copies of my handouts for you, but if you're with us online, you could come in the building and we'd be happy to have a minyan. So, what I gave you, the page with all the Hebrew on it, and the English, the translation, is passages from first the Torah and then the Mishnah about how to do this holiday that we're in, right? How to build a sukkah, what some of the laws could be. And then what I gave you in your pictures, these, you can see at the bottom of the back side of the text page, it says that all of these photos are from a Sukkot exhibit from what's called Neot Kedumim Park, which is in Israel. It's a biblical preserve that they have, things there that they build that are what they are described as in the Torah. So, for example, they have planted trees and built examples of the Sukkot that are mentioned in the Torah and in the Mishnah. So these pictures that we'll look through together for a little bit are some examples of how they have imagined the Mishnah might have meant and what it would look like if you built something that actually followed the rules of what it says in the Mishnah of what you can do. So, I will, if anybody would like to read, you're more than welcome, or else I will do it myself. The verse from Leviticus from Vayikra says, you shall live in booths for 7 days. All citizens in Israel shall live in booths, right? Yeshvu Basukot. That's what this whole holiday is about. And so in the first Mishnah that I have selected here, it was from the very first Mishnah of the first section of what's the passage called Sukkah, the section about all the laws of the Sukkah. So it says, right, the roof, which is the main and most crucial element of the mitzvah, if it's more than 20 cubits high, it's unfit. What's a cubit? A cubit is called an amma. It's from the tip of your fingers to your elbow. So you might say, well, my tip of my fingers to my elbow is different than your tip of your fingers to your elbow, so how much is a cubit, right? It was an average. They weren't so exact, but an average person. So if it's more than 20 cubits high, not good, right? You can imagine the cubit is probably at least 1.5 feet, if not 2 feet. So you can't have it be more than 30 or 40 feet high. That's really high, right? So on the first page, that really tall sukkah, right? They say you shouldn't have a sukkah quite that tall. But Rabbi Yehuda says it could be kosher, right? And they say a sukkah that's not 10 hand breadths high. What's a hand breadth? A tefach, from this side of your hand to this side of your hand. This is called a hand breadth. So if you have 10 of these and you go up 10 of them, if it's not higher than that, not high enough. Right? So from the floor, if you stack your hands 10 times on top of each other, it has to at least be that tall, right? You have to be able to sit in it. Otherwise, so that's what they put here, a very small sukkah, right? Imagine that it's on the front of the page I gave you. Imagine that you're bending over to be able to be in your sukkah. I think the pictures are funny. They're like imagining what it would be like. And they say if it doesn't have 3 walls, and if the sunlight passes through its roofing and there's more sun than shade, no good. Right? We always know that the rule we tell people is more shade than sun. You should still be able to see the sky, but you have to have more shade than you do sun. Okay, let's see what is in the next Mishnah, in Mishnah Sukkah number 1, 2. It says if somebody puts their sukkah under a tree, it's as though it was established inside the house, right? If it's under a tree, it's as if it has an overhang. Doesn't work. If you put a sukkah on top of another sukkah, what do you guys think before we read what happens? If you put a sukkah on top of another sukkah, this double-decker sukkah on the first inside page, what do we think? The top one's good, the bottom one's no good, right? The top one, exactly, the Mishnah says, the sukkah on top, that's good, that's kosher, you can see the sky through it. But the sukkah on the bottom, there's another sukkah on top of it, so you...
Well, when the 8 people on the top one fall through the floor to the bottom one's going to be awesome.
Yes. Sure. If you say so.
Before the hurricane, you do that.
But Rabbi Yehuda says if the top sukkah has nobody in it, then your bottom sukkah could be fine, right? Imagine if the top sukkah, maybe they have a clear floor and you can see through all the way to the sky. I don't know. I'm not sure people really go by Rabbi Yehuda. That seems shaky to me too. But they show you on this inside page what it could look like to have a double-decker sukkah, right? To have your sukkah on top of something else.
You got to keep up with the NPR needs, right?
Right. Okay, number 3, at the bottom of that first page. If one spread a sheet over the roof as protection for those sitting in the sukkah due to the sun, or underneath the roofing as a protection because you would have leaves that are falling, or if you spread a canopy over the frame of a 4-post bed, an area in the sukkah that's underneath the sheet, that is not kosher, right? So this next example shows you what a covered sukkah looks like, right? If you cover your sukkah with a sheet, you're... Right, it looks like a chuppah, exactly. We're not having a wedding, we're having a sukkah. And so that's no good. And then the Mishnah keeps going. It says, in the first 2 cases, the sheet could become ritually impure, the roof is unfit. And in the case of a canopy, right, if you're sitting in it, you're like sitting inside a tent. You're not sitting in a sukkah. It doesn't count. But you could spread a sheet over the frame of a 2-post bed, which has 1 post in the middle of each end of the bed, And when spreading the sheet over its posts, it's an incline, like a tent kind of roof like that. It's not considered a significant structure. Now, it still doesn't sound really like a sukkah to me, but...
I got a question though.
Yes, Prince.
Since today they got clear plastic, and say if you put, the leaves over, over the super, we can still see elements, but elements with the clear plastic, elements
Right.
can't come in.
You're supposed to be able to feel the rain when it comes down.
Just say that you out if it rains,
You are supposed to go out if it rains. So there's actually a great teaching that I love about the rain on Sukkot that says, and it's not on the page, so I'll just tell you. It says that on Sukkot, if the weather is ruining your soup, right? If the weather is such that it could ruin your soup, then you could go inside. And they also say that a person who doesn't like to be uncomfortable, right? You know that kind of feeling of like you're wet and you're gross and you just don't really like it? It's called an istanis, the Talmud says. And an istanis, somebody who just can't handle being uncomfortable. They say on Sukkot, everyone is an istanis. You don't even have to be someone who usually isn't comfortable being uncomfortable. You get to fall into that category and you can go inside, even if you could handle it, right? They give everybody an exemption. They say if it's gross outside, you can be like an istanis too, and you can go back inside. Shouldn't make ourselves miserable by sitting out in the sukkah when it's raining or it's gross. Or when I'm going to talk about it in my sermon tomorrow, but when I was growing up, we lived in Chicago and it was cold in the sukkah. We would put on our coats and have our space heaters, and until it wasn't really uncomfortable, we would eat outside, and eventually, if it was not, bearable, we'd go back inside.
Yeah,
But-
we had already soaking with the rain.
Yeah?
It was so funny because it's every time it happened. And it's funny, it wasn't even in our house.
Yeah.
So you're embarrassed to say, let's go.
Right. You don't want to tell your host, hey guys, it's raining too much for us.
Yeah,
But tell them next time,
it's funny.
tell them we're all istanis, we can all go inside. Rabbi said so. Okay. We're going through our sources too quickly, we're going to have too much time. But, okay, we can just chat. Okay, on the back side of our source sheet, and now we're inside the pictures. Says in Sukkah Mishnah 1, number 11, someone who establishes their sukkah in a circular hut with no roof, but whose walls slope down from the center, or who rested their sukkah against a wall with long branches, placing one end on the ground and leaning the other end against a wall to establish a structure with no roof. Rabbi Eliezer says not kosher because there's no roof. But the other rabbis, the Rabbanim, they say kosher sukkah. Right? In their opinion, the walls and the roof can be all the same piece of wall, even if it's indistinguishable from one another. It's fine for them if the leaning sukkah here on this bottom part, right, that this part is wall and roof, fine. They say, okay, no problem. I don't have the answer from the Gemara about who wins, but that's the conversation that they had in the Mishnah.
Choose three opinions.
Always, right?
They get together and talk themselves.
Well, that's what happens. In the Mishnah, we get all the rules. And in the Gemara, in the Talmud, the rest of the conversation is, what do those rules mean? And so the rabbis have conversations about, who does what. What do we think? Do we think it should go by this opinion or by that opinion? That's why the Talmud is so long, because they were having all their conversations with the 2 Jews and the 3 opinions. That's right. Okay, my last Mishnah, and the pictures here on this second to last page. Mishnah 2, number 3. For somebody who makes their sukkah on top of a tree or on top of a camel, sukkah is good.
Like a rickshaw.
Yes, like a rickshaw, exactly. But you might not be allowed to go up and enter it on the first day of the festival because the rabbis said you couldn't climb in trees or animals on Yom Tov, or on the day of the festival. Right, so you can put it there.
I keep them stone.
Nah, I don't know. Yes. They say you can't climb on trees or animals on the holiday.
Didn't it say earlier that if you made it under a tree, it wasn't kosher?
Under a tree is not kosher, but on top of a tree, as long as you can see the stars, under the tree, you couldn't see the stars, right? So the thing about the schach, right? You might say, well, if I put my sukkah under a tree, then I don't have to bother cutting down my branches for my schach. But the rule for the schach, for the roof material, is it has to have been something that used to grow from the ground, but that has been cut so that it no longer is attached to the ground, right? So if you have a branch of a tree and you think that's going to be my schach, the rabbis say, no, no, no. You have to have it be detached. So that's why our sukkah in the back has a lot of branches that were all cut down or have come down. I'm actually curious to find out if anybody benefited from the aftermath of the storm by having there be branches that they now had access to that they didn't before, instead of having to cut new ones. There can be some silver linings of storms when it comes in proximity to Sukkot. But, right, so they say you can't put it on top of a camel, you can't put it on top of a tree, because you can't actually jump on top of those things or climb on those things on the holiday. But it actually is a kosher sukkah. You could go into it after the first day. And by the first day, they mean the first 2 days for us here in America. Because in Israel, they celebrate one day. So whenever the Mishnah is talking about one, we know that that means both of our first 2 days of the holiday.
So that also means that if you built a sukkah on the ground, but you had, like a couple steps to this,
Steps are fine. You can't climb a tree or on top of an animal, but you could walk upstairs. You don't think so?
No. I didn't see the problem if you climb anything in that sense, of course.
Well, they say you can't climb using trees or animals.
Because we had, like I say, 3 steps or 4 steps going into it, because you might want it off the ground, high enough off the ground, so, maybe, pestilence or whatever the case was.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, the rest of this Mishnah says, if there's 2 walls in a tree, and 1 that is built on the ground by somebody, or if 2 are established on the ground by a person and 1 in the tree, the sukkah is kosher, but again, you can't go into it on the first 2 days of the festival because you can't use the tree. If 3 walls are on the ground and 1 is in the tree, then it's fine. Because you have enough walls on the ground, you have to have at least 2.5. Right? So if you had 3 on the ground and you have another wall in a tree, they say, fine, forget that wall. Your sukkah is kosher by virtue of the walls that are on the ground. And the Mishnah summarizes the end of this rule as if there was a sukkah. If you took the tree away and the sukkah was still freestanding and kosher, fine. If not fine, because it has to do with whether the tree is integral to the sukkah or extra for the sukkah. Okay, and on the back, I have 2 more examples of things without a Mishnah to go with it, but a sukkah on a wagon and a sukkah on a ship or a boat, which just like some of the other sukkot we have on top of other things, are all good and kosher.
You can ride one Yom Tov?
You probably would have to have it be stationary,
The stationary bag?
a tied one.
How'd you get to it?
It'd be at your dock. I don't know, I've never done it before. But my favorite story from when I was a kid was there was a kid's book we used to read called The Sukkah on the Roof. And it was an apartment building. You used to put one on the roof of your building in Israel? So this storybook, it was an apartment building, and one of the people in the building wanted to build a sukkah on the roof of the building. And the rest of the people in the building, they all complain. And it goes to a court, and the court says, okay, this is your holiday, I understand. You have to take it down the end of 1 week. Right? End of the holiday already in 1 week. So they made it seem like they were telling him to take it down, but they gave him enough time to celebrate the holiday. So I always love that story.
I have a question. What is this string around, 3 strings around the poles of the sukkah? A certain height. I have to do it for my.
Oh, I don't know.
For not my
That I haven't heard about.
Not the. If I can do it, put strings, I think it was like 18 inches each one.
We had it on the balcony.
I don't know. Maybe it was just to hold it in place?
No,
No?
well, he's a Wawa, so you know.
But it's.
I don't know.
Was that for Shabbos that they?
No, not that.
No,
That's an
Eruv.
Eruv.
Not the Eruv, no.
No. I don't know.
No, it was this side.
It's the Sukkot, yeah, it's the altar.
You remember that?
Yes,
Hannah remembers, but I don't know the answer.
No,
Yeah,
I
I don't know also.
You don't know either? Is there anybody who has any opinions about any of these pictures before we move on? You like the what? The boat? Yeah.
But I like the tall one.
The tall one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the tall one at some point is no longer good, but Rabbi Yehuda said it's okay.
The wagon itself, since it's got wheels and stuff like that,
It's portable.
I like the one there.
Yeah, you probably could roll it in between the holiday though, in Chol HaMoed, and move it somewhere else. Well, there are people who put their sukkah on their car and drive it around, sukkah mobile. In some communities, they have that, where they drive it around so people can go into the sukkah
Yeah, they do.
and bench, lulav inside the sukkah.
In New York.
The sukkah comes to you.
In
Yeah, in New York, for sure. Yeah, it's not a big sukkah.
It's just like they do for Hanukkah.
Right. The menorah on the big truck. I guess the other thing that we could talk about for a couple minutes, because we are still a little bit early. So this year there were some sukkah fails, right? Things that people made, products that had things spelled wrong, or I don't know if anybody saw, there was a article going around and videos. There were these gift boxes that were created to say Happy Sukkot, but the people who made them must have not have checked with someone who was Jewish, and
Chinese.
the Hebrew is backwards, so it says Happy Tukas.
Okay, so I thought it was they did it
Um,
on purpose.
So they're like these little gift boxes that you can put, tissue paper and little gifts to your friends in, but instead of having Happy Sukkot, it's.
I think it was a joke.
I don't think it was a joke. I think it was wrong. It's just the letters are backwards.
Yeah.
I don't think it was on purpose. Online, I don't know.
Get a cheat.
What?
Yeah, I saw
Probably.
it, so-
Yeah, we
There's
saw it.
Chinese, Jewish,
Yeah.
Hebrew.
And the other one I saw is that someone was selling on Amazon like a little tiny pop-up sukkah for maybe for kids maybe. What?
When you open it,
Yeah, it's like a little sukkah. But on the outside it says Sameach Chanukah, right?
Oh, because.
Hanukkah happy.
Happy New Year.
Right. You would think that, it's the opposite of how we say Happy Hanukkah, but it's also the wrong holiday. People you can find that when you buy Hanukkah sweaters. 9 times out of 10, they'll have a dreidel with the wrong letter. They'll have only 7 branches on their menorah instead of 9 for the Chanukiah. There's, it's commercial things. People aren't careful.
Well, they call the menorah the Chanukiah.
That's right, the Chanukiah, right. You have to have something different. I bought one once and I wore it all day long until someone said to me, why do you only have 7 branches on your candles? I said, because I was wearing it, not looking at it. Right?
BJ's is selling Hamantashen now.
Yeah, Hamantashen already? You tell them it's for Purim?
It's like Purim Day, all the matzah.
Right. Well, it's like when they have, babka on the Passover table. Or matzah for Rosh Hashanah. They don't know. At least they have stuff. Right?
By the time
says
you
kosher.
get to, they're gonna cost twice as much, so you may as well get them now.
Sure. If they're going to still be good, but you might need to put them in the freezer and then take them out.
Bad anyway, don't buy it.
I was thinking with a dreidel, with the chai, a little,
What?
the chai letter on the dreidel.
Oh, the hay?
Hey,
Oh, the
Yeah.
Nesgavelo Yasha.
What about it?
you can flash that, so, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing?
Okay.
You could say, hey. I got a hey. Okay. So thanks for looking with me at some different funky Sukkot. If you ever get to Israel and you can look up Neot Kedumim, it's a cool place to go. I went there once and they taught us how to herd sheep. We had to try to get the sheep from one place to another. It was a team building exercise. You're welcome to keep your pages or else I'll take them back.
Yeah.
I better you come over here, I'll be trying to get it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Please,
I'm
enjoy.
very glad to have that.
Okay, whatever you want.
Thank you.
You'll keep that?
And so they called me up,
Okay.
they called me up to invite me to have tea and cookies and stuff. And I said, that's great. So they said, can you come to our
Okay, my friends, we turn back to page 27. Sorry, page 28. The festival evening service is on page 28, and since we still don't have a minyan, we will not stand up for Baruch Hu, but we will continue with the first paragraph. Baruch atah Adonai. Every yom maybe Laila, Mavdil ben yom ben Laila, our nights vote Shemo, Chai Bekayam, Timmy Lachlan Bed, Rakatar, and I am Mari Barabi. Yavadcha, does your man let me Rakatar, and I have a Mo Yisrael. El Melech Ne'eman. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohim, page 32. Umalchuto bratzon kiblu aleihem, Moshe b'nei Yisrael chanu shirav zimcha rabah v'yamru kulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, norat tehilot osei feleh. Malchut charav vanecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'amar kifad Adonai et Yaakov, okay, let me ask you menu. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael Ashkimenu. Ushmor tzeitenu voenu lechem shalom yatav yad olam afros aleinu sukat shlomecha Baruch atah Adonai Aporei sukat shalom aleinu v'kol mo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise. Vayidaber Moshe et Moadei Adonai el bnei Yisrael. Mariv for the festival can be found on page 41, A or B. Page 41, A or B. Remembering to include the passages for Sukkot. Yom Chag HaSukkot hazeh zon tzagadinu mikra kodesh. Yom Chag HaSukkot hazeh v'hasina If you are still completing your personal Amidah, please continue. Otherwise, we turn to page 51 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon ha'kol l'tegeru l'yotzer reshit shelo asanu kegoyei aratzot velo samanu kemishbechot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem Vegor aleinu kechol amonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, she'u noteh shamayim ve'yosed haaretz, u'moshav yekaro v'shamayim imal, Ushchinatu zo, begov hei meromim, hu Eloheinu eino remokeinu ladon. Ki malchut shel chayim adimok b'chavok ha'katuv b'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'nei Shemo Echad. We'll turn to page 80. As morning and evening, we add an additional psalm for the season of repentance. Again, page 80. Lulei amantu leprim and iver's claim kavel nechalak vim et slibecha v'kavel Adonai. Fondness and affection to recall those members of our community, our congregational family whose yahrzeits begin this evening, the 16th of the month of Tishrei. We remember Abraham Schwartzberg, Annette Weitzman Randolph, Edna Maltz, Gloria Greenberg, Henry Modlin, Israel Kagan, Lenore Lipkin Liu, Moshe Sosnowich, Norma Fink Lazarus, Rose Brownstein, Rose Fletcher, Susan Andrisi, Sydney Shander, and William Blestein. He's Ephraim Baruch. May their memories be for a blessing. May they rest in peace. Amen. I was trying to find, I know it's in here somewhere. Give me a second. Does not want to be found. Okay. Success. We will turn to page 197. Page 197, in the absence of a minyan, we'll recite together Psalm 23, Tehillim Kaf Gimel.
Okay.
197. Sure. So we'll recite together in the English. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows and guides me over calm waters. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are at my side. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. We conclude with Yigdal on page 53. You may be seated. 53 in the back, back to where Mari was, and then we'll go out to the Sukkah for a very quick kiddush, and then we'll be on our way. Yigdal, page 53. Yigdal Elohim Chai Ve'Yishabach Nimtza Ve'enet Al Metziuto Echad Ein Yachid Ke'Yechodo Ne'elam V'gam Ein Sof Le'achduto Ein Lo Dimut HaGuf Ve'eino Guf Lo Nar Ochelav Kedushato Kademon Lachol Davar Asher Nivra Rishon Ve'en Reshit L'Reshito Hino Adon Olam V'chol Notzar Yoreh Gedulato Malchuto Shafan Evuato Netano El Anshe Segulato Vetifarto Lo Kam Be'Yisrael